Morning. Upon popular request, I'm going to do the wrench. When I'm looking at it here, I tried it in SketchUp a little this morning. I will point out that this is a drawing I believe that is much easier in AutoCAD than SketchUp. And for that reason, and a number of other reasons, I'll take this all the way through to sketchy physics for you in a series of videos. But first, of course, we want to start correctly in AutoCAD, getting our rules right. So I'll try to be correct in that all the way through. Again, I am drawing in Civil 3D, though I've made it to look like AutoCAD. I do not have my mouse set up at home. So the thing I'm going to remember to do is go New, go to the correct space on my drive. For most of you at home, it will eventually be something called a K drive. In that K drive, there will be a set of templates. You can either grab templates or drawings or standards from those drives. But if you notice here, each time it goes back. So you got to remember where to get your stuff. Go to K drive here. We're going to go to the decimal. It's decimal feet. That does not mean it's really feet. It just means it's decimal. I'll point out right now in this sheet of paper here that comes up right on top, there is something here on the inside called a viewport. That little thing there, if I list it, once again I'm going to open, I'm turning on my keyboard as always, but I can now list that, and you see it as a viewport, and it's a particular size, 9.8 by 6.8. What I'm going to do for this example is I'm going to actually get rid of that viewport, and we'll see why later. That viewport I'm erasing, so I clicked on it, I right click out in the open space, doesn't let me cut here, so I'm going to go here and I'm erasing it, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. You're in your model now. Of course, you draw a box bigger than the thing you want to draw. This thing is in the order of 6 by, I don't know, 6 by 5. So I'm just going to go, that box I just erased was 9 point something by 6 point something. I'm going to go 6 by 9. Click here, draft a box. Remember, this is one place you do not read, at 9, 6. Now right away we want to get good at having some layers up, some toolbars up here. I'll bring that one out there. I remember that I can click on that and change its layer here if I want to view, or I can use a right click properties, even though I don't have right click properties on my mouse now. Alright, I want to change now. We're going to go ahead and draft some set of strong baselines and strong base angles. In some ways, however, you can think a little bit sometimes a little bit differently about a structure. So in this case, I see I have an ellipse that is 0.75 by 1.38 with the 1.75 going up. I'm going to go ahead and draw something that's kind of called a bounding box here. I'm turning off my dynamic. I'm going to draw a box here on the object layer. I'm hitting escape. I'm going to go to the object layer and try to draft correctly. It's turned off. Remember, we can go to the layer command here and make sure everything's on, or at least the one that we're trying to draft is on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draft this box, and this is I'm doing because I just noticed that this box is not the same on either side. So this box, or more or less that defines the ellipse, is going to be at 1.38 comma 1.75. So that's going to be kind of defining my box, and now I can kind of, if I think about it, I can draft in a set of center lines from the midpoint to the midpoint. Shift right click midpoint, and I'll very quickly start just typing the mid, because in reality for many of us we probably are using the snaps, but I am not going to break the habit for myself of turning on the snaps on a regular basis. If I look at that there, I now kind of have don't want to restore my iPad. Nope, I don't want to do that. Alright. I've got really this point here where it's going to come on, where this ogee is going to come in. So what I'm going to do now is going to draft a line from the end point here, even though I could draft out this direction, the 4.12, I guess that's what I should do. I could do some math. I can now instead, perhaps, what I should have done before is go ahead and erase that line there, and for now draft this line from the midpoint there. I'm taking my hand off the mouse and I'm saying 4.12. Right? I'm taking my hand off the mouse as I go up and I am saying 2. And now what that 4.12 gave me is the center of another box. That box being 1.25 by 1.63. I'm going to go ahead and put this here first off on the side. Draft my box at 1.25 comma 1.63. Now again, I'm going to go ahead and draft the line from the midpoint to the midpoint, and on this point we want that of course to be on center line layer. And I can now grab all these things. If you remember, we know how to grab. And now left click there, spacebar, and then go ahead and move them with my F8 off to the end of that. Now I will point out that there's some things upon things, there's some lines upon lines, and that's really not always the best case to do, so I can erase that out. And if you see here, what I've got is this major baseline 4.12, my major baseline here, that's 2, and then I also have in effect a point from here and a point to the midpoint there that I'm going to now draft that is my OGI. So I'm going to go ahead and draft here from the, not from the endpoint, do it again, line here, shift right click from the intersection here, shift right click to the midpoint there. And once again put that on the center line. Now I'm incorporating more than the geometry in this, just showing you different ways to do the same thing, but in effect now we have something that's going to define an ellipse in here. We have something here, and if you show, they showed that center line to center line, and I've kind of laid out my strong center lines. And so now I can, in effect, sometimes get rid of those center lines, endpoint to endpoint, or I could put them on another layer, or. So in other words, at this point, we really might not want this and this to be staring at us once we've got it in. So amongst things we can do is right click. I can't right click because I don't have that set of tools on mine, but you're going to go ahead and change the properties. And you can put it on some other layer. Hidden is going to be reserved for later, but we'll go ahead for now, put that on hidden, so that now we can go ahead and say, boy, I like my layers as they're set up now. Hit layer manager, say new, this is all state, hit OK, hit close. But then now we can go ahead and use a layer freeze command, right click at any toolbar, bring up the layers 2 toolbar. The layers toolbar has this. I can freeze a layer, and now when I freeze that, it doesn't get in the way of my thinking. And so I'm going to now finish out, take a break here, come back to this drawing. I'm going to go line from the midpoint of that to the end point. And I have effectively what I need for the OGI, which is it's going up a certain distance, not the 4.12, but I've got this here. And if you remember, lots of people are doing it different ways. I kind of like this way. I'll show it that a lot of students have done. I'm going to left click that, left click, spacebar, C, 90 degrees. And now what you effectively have, if I now take a line here from the endpoint here, going straight up with the F8, same thing there, from the endpoint here, going down, I can extend, screw that, I have the center of the midpoint of this line, and the midpoint of this line defines my circle. So I'll do that when we pick this up in the next 10 minutes, and we should get it done. I'm going to go all the way through to plotting on this one. So stay tuned.